The Truthergirls. The Truthergirls.
Hi everyone, this is a video about Dallasgoldbug. I didn't want to spend time on this because I think it's silly, but since you keep asking me what I think about it and some of you are asking me to prove that it's not true, I'm going to do that. The Dallasgoldbug channel belonging to Ed Chiarini got shut down on the 1st of January. And for the record, I had nothing to do with this. I'm a civil libertarian, so I'm the last person who would flag somebody for copyright for using some of my material in one of their videos. Dallasgoldbug was putting out videos claiming to expose that actors were being used in multiple roles as celebrities and politicians and YouTubers. As in, one individual would be hired to play several different people in different places. The notion that actors are used on the news to deceive the public didn't start with Ed. It started in the Let's Roll forums, examining footage from 9/11 way back in 2005. Were actors used on 9/11? Probably. Are they used on the news? Well, they are in video news releases, which are basically propaganda put out by the government and corporations and made to look like news reports. But was Ed really exposing prominent people for being actors and Pima County sheriff's deputies? Was he really exposing the heart of New World Order deception? Or was he just making stuff up and pissing people off and making truth seekers look bad? Well, for one, if he was really outing undercover officers, you'd think he would have gotten himself into some kind of trouble with the law for, for example, interfering with a police investigation. The government, the police don't take well to their agents and operatives being outed. You might remember the case of Valerie Plame Wilson back in 2003. It was a huge scandal. You don't just out cops or CIA agents just like that. But how about all those pictures that he showed us? Weren't they perfect matches? Well, here's a little explanation that I recorded a few days ago, and maybe it'll help you to understand what's really going on. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I have a degree in fine arts. It's art education, but I specialize somewhat in portraiture. Here are a few sketch portraits that I did. When most people look at a face, their brain kind of interferes with their ability to see what's really there. You have like a kind of dictionary of symbols in your mind. You reduce everything to symbols. So if I asked you to draw an eye, you would probably come up with something like this. And if I asked you to draw a hand, you might come up with something like this. Now when you learn to draw from observation, what you learn to look at are the negative spaces. Your brain hasn't developed any symbols for the spaces around objects, the negative spaces, so it's easier for it to see them as they really are. It's the negative space that will tell you how something truly looks, that will tell you what its shape really is. If you want to do a little experiment with this to see how it works, try drawing your hand using negative space. You take your hand and then you look at the space in between the fingers. Can't show you because I'm holding my camera, I can't show you with the pen. In between the fingers, so instead of drawing the finger, you draw the space in between those fingers. And you should come out with something that looks a lot more like your hand actually does. So once you understand the concept of negative spaces, you can take a different look at Ed's work. Here are two sets of eyes. Dallasgoldbug would like you to think they belong to the same person, and the differences are due to camera angle. But as you see when you look at the two faces they belong to, the angle's not that different. Now let's look at some of the differences. The brown eyes have an elongated shape, but the blue eyes have a more upside down teacup shape. The brow and upper lid areas are different and have different negative space shapes. The brown eyes extend further out to the edge of the face. The blue eyes are also set further apart. The blue eyes are smaller in proportion to the space that's between them. On a person's face, the edges of the nose come to right about under the inner corners of the eye, and you can see that the blue-eyed woman's nose is wider. Her chin is also smaller and less square than the brown-eyed woman's. The woman with the brown eyes has a more prominent bone on her nose, the one with the blue eyes, if you look at this part of her nose, you'll see that it's a lot more scooped out. Now that you have some idea of how to look at negative spaces and proportions, you remember the game that you played when you were a kid, Spot the Differences? See all these trucks? They look like they're exactly the same, but they're not. So now let's play Spot the Differences. Here are two women who Ed says are the same. Do they look alike to you? They look pretty similar. Let's have a closer look and see if you can spot the differences. Might want to pause the video for a second. Here are some of the differences. Did you spot them? Or how about these two guys? Do they look alike to you? One of them's the Fort Hood shooter. Did you spot all these differences? I did. Or how about these two guys? The guy on the right is a member of the Jackass crew, and the guy on the left is a man whose child was abducted. Here are the differences. Did you find them all? Or how about these two women, Janet Napolitano and some Jewish lady who's some kind of activist? Do they look the same to you? Well, there you go. Here are the differences. I hope you spotted them. Ed claimed that I'm YouTuber Swan Deborah. Now, the first thing I'd like you to do is look at just Deborah and tell me what you think her ethnicity is. My guess is you might say Irish, English, French, some kind of white Western European mix. Now if you look at my face alone and I asked you what my ethnicity was, you would probably say Eastern European, maybe Polish, maybe Italian, maybe Jewish. You probably wouldn't think that I was of the same ethnicity as Deborah. And besides that, here are some of the differences between us. Deborah has lower ears, her eyes are smaller, her jaw is much narrower, her brow upper lid area is a different shape. And another thing is that her face is a lot flatter. Still think we're the same person? More recently, Ed made the more outrageous claim that I'm actually Tina Fey, who's really Sarah Palin. Okay, I resemble Tina Fey somewhat. People have told me that many times. And Tina Fey does a mean impersonation of Sarah Palin. But does that really mean we're all the same person? Sonia is Tina Fey? Tina Fey is Sarah Palin? Let's not forget, if Deborah is supposedly Sonia, who's supposedly Tina Fey, who's supposedly Sarah Palin, that would mean that Deborah is Sarah Palin. Does this look like Miss Alaska to you? As you see, there are a lot of differences. Still think this is Sarah Palin? Well, it's pretty clear to me that Ed's matches weren't matches at all. And this must have been clear to Ed too, because he's actually a very skilled and talented artist. A graphic artist and a sculptor. He illustrated Robert Grodin's book, The Killing of a President. So it's just about impossible that Ed himself couldn't spot the differences. So what happened here? Well, I think that the few resemblances that these people had, coupled with the similar expressions, poses, and angles in the pictures that Ed chose to use, and the suggestion that they were the same person, was enough to lead many people to believe his claims. That's the power of suggestion, the power of marketing, which is a field that Ed is an expert in. And technically, using suggestion in this way to make you believe something is actually a form of mind control. Do the media and the government lie? Sure. Are reality shows not really reality? Well, no kidding. Did Ed get shut down for exposing Sarah Palin? What do you think? Why did Ed do this? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm really, astonished at this whole thing. This is bizarre at best, sinister at worst. It, I think, makes the truth movement look bad. And it's been serving as a big diversion for a lot of us. It's been causing a lot of infighting and splitting up our little truther community online. What Ed was doing was spreading a lot of rumors. I would say even cyberbullying. What really amazes me is that so many people fell for this. I actually fell for this in the beginning until I started to see that he was matching all kinds of random people together and it wasn't making any sense. But a lot of people fell for this and continued to fall for it. And I'm honestly kind of disappointed in the public. I mean, the YouTube community. I've always said, you know, people aren't stupid and they have, you know, ability for discernment. And this kind of made me think like, wow, I guess there are a lot of people out there who really don't have good discernment. Ed was wrong all along. I'm not Tina Fey. I'm not Sarah Palin. I'm not Deborah. I'm Amy Winehouse. And his case was really deteriorating more and more as time went on, because after a while he was admitting that the people in the matches didn't look the same, and he was accounting for it, saying that they were wearing special stage makeup or prostheses or masks or whatever, or special distorted lenses and camera angles. But where was the proof of any of this? You can't just go around accusing people of wearing fake noses. And the moral of the story is, keep an open mind, but don't keep your mind so open that your brain falls out. And remember to always think critically and think for yourself. Well, thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.
But, you know, I don't really like talking about politics all that much anyway. I'd much rather talk about fishing for halibut. You betcha! Halibut's really huge.